Hello everybody, welcome back to One Leeds. We're here, we've not been on for a couple of days because I thought to myself I'm just absolutely talking about Daniel Farke and the San Francisco 49ers till the cows come home. So I have actually come home and for the first time in a long while, it's not Generation Leeds per se, because that is on the Patreon. If you guys do fancy heading on over there for a little bit more regular with how the house is now. We basically, Dad and Mum have basically had the kitchen redone, so it's been chaos here on it. So
yeah, it has. Not seen you in a long time, Con. I think it's the first time in about 6 weeks, and an awful lot has happened, hasn't it, Leeds United wise, in that time?
Yeah, it has, and so we normally catch up a lot when it comes to Leeds. Obviously, most days, and obviously we record on Generation Leeds, but that's not been happening because obviously it's just been chaos here. But so obviously I wanted to come back, wanted to get your thoughts on everything that's been going on. Yeah. To be honest, we were just speaking beforehand. I don't really know where to start. It's probably quite prominent to talk about where Leeds are right now, and unfortunately, it's quite a dour conversation right now with the club. Isn't it?
It's a weird one, Connor, really, isn't it? Because I suppose if we'd have said right at the start of the season, we're 11 games into the season, which is where we are now, and we're on 11 points, you'd be thinking to yourself, that's not a bad return, But we know what's coming up. And we know that the next sort of 12 games going up to mid-January, it's going to be probably the worst stretch of games that we're going to have to endure the whole season. So really, you just can't, for me, it's a Daniel Farke thing, isn't it, to say, well, we are where we expected to be on 11 points. We're on target for staying up at this stage of the season. Okay, there's some truth in that. But, you've got to look at how we've been performing over the last few weeks in comparison to how we performed in those first couple of games. And there's unfortunately been a definite downturn. When you're looking at this tranche of games that we've just come through, where we've won 1 in 5, it's not good, is it? It's not good, and it's not looking good. And I've got to be honest, I'm really... there's a certain thing around the club, I feel, at the moment. It's almost like we're sleepwalking towards relegation, and I don't know what it is. There's like an apathy around Leeds United at the moment where, unlike 5 years ago when we went down, 4 or 5 years ago when we went down, where it was a generation since we've been in the Premier League, and it hurt us all so much, and we remembered how torrid that season was with the sackings and the new managers coming in. This seems odd. It seems odd. It doesn't seem like, for me, there's the same emotion. Other Leeds fans that I'm aware of around me are sort of like shrugging the shoulders, almost like accepting the inevitability of it all. And I really don't understand what it is, whether it's because we've not really got started, it feels, with the season. We've had 3 international breaks and we're currently in one right now. I don't know what it is, but there's a real apathy, I feel, at the moment towards where the club's going. And that's illustrated really by the fact that we've still got Daniel Farke here at the moment. And that's another conversation. I suppose we'll be talking about that during this segment as well, Connor. But yeah, it's been a weird start to the season. It's odd the way it's going. And things for me need shaking up big time right now, I feel, to change that.
Yeah, it does feel like that. We've got into the season and you're picking up the certain points, and it's probably quite prominent to talk about Farke, but you're picking up a certain level of points and you're seeing Leeds play a certain style against the likes of Bournemouth and Everton and Newcastle, of which is physical, it's fraught, it's frantic, but it's it felt like that was almost the way that Leeds were going to. And the weirdest thing is that we did kind of adapt. We adapted to that style. We'd gone from a more possession-laden football side to a team of which felt, that we adapted. You saw the strategy in the summer, which was Dominic Calvert-Lewin, Lucas Mecha, Anton Stack, Beal, all coming in with all purpose. And it felt like maybe they'd learned from the mistakes of Southampton, the mistakes of Leicester, the mistakes of Burnley. But it feels like all of a sudden, and I will say this, Daniel Farke has gone to I think he's become a little bit arrogant. I think he's kind of gone back to a part of him of which we all kind of thought he'd actually moved away from, which is this possession-heavy football, the build-up from the back, which is the slowest in the Premier League right now, the directness, which is now the slowest in the Premier League right now. But we've actually seen in games it working. And now we've gone back to this. You look at Arsenal even, and a lot of people would say, well, that was earlier on in the season. I guess that was a red flag straight away. Yes. But Arsenal, you look at Brighton, Fulham to an extent, and then you look at, Burnley. So easy for us to to be managed in that game. We missed chances, of course, but Burnley sat back, didn't they? And then obviously the most recent one being Forest, which was absolutely damning. You're coming up against teams who have high turnover rates, especially when you're looking at Brighton, and you're seeing Leeds absolutely playing to the hands. And there's so much to talk about with Farke and how he's getting it wrong, in my opinion. But I guess the question I would ask you is this the 49ers' fault in terms of the recruitment in the summer? Or is this Daniel Farke's fault because he's not getting the best out of certain personnel?
Well, I think it's a bit of both, Connor. It has to be, because you'd be a fool to think that Daniel Farke didn't have a hand in this situation. He's definitely got a very big hand to play in this, and it's okay him moaning about maybe he's not got the squad that he expected. But the cold light of day tells us, when you look back at the spends during the summer, that fans may not think this, but the 49ers did actually back us. If you take out the 4 top spenders during the transfer window, who spent considerably more than everybody else, Leeds are actually the six highest spenders out of 14 clubs in the Premier League. Now, there may well be, and that we all know with the restraints of PSR that our
net spend would be different as well.
Yeah, our hands were tied, or they have been tied, and really for us to compete at this level, we probably needed to spend 300 to 400 million like Liverpool did. But we cannot do that. So your hands are tied. Yeah. So I think to a degree, the 49ers would come on something like this and say, well, we have supported the manager. We've done the very best we can do. We've spent nearly £100 million on the squad. Okay, it's less than some of, for example, Sunderland, but we have supported you. So the predicament really does lie with them to a degree, because we needed a huge spend, which we could never achieve, and that wasn't ever going to be on the cards. But certainly Daniel Farke's got a major hand to play in this, and there's no doubt at all that I was calling Connor quite clearly at the end of last season, and you recall this, I thought it was right that we got rid of Daniel Farke at that point.
Yeah, you did.
I was really quite clear about that, because for me, he's a championship manager. He's a very successful championship manager, but he's never been a successful Premier League manager. If you were to ask 24 clubs, 24 chairman clubs of the championship, would they take Daniel Farke as their manager? Hands down, every single one of them would, because of his record there. You ask the same question to Premier League chairman, Premier League owners, not one of them would touch him. So unfortunately, in the clear light of day, despite their backing, we've still got a squad which, when you look at match day, is still heavily championship. It's still players that played last year in the championship are still featuring on that team sheet every single Saturday, Sunday and Monday, whenever it is that we play. So here we are, in the cold light of day, where we've got that spend, and a third of that spend is sat on the bench commonly every week, so it's not even on the pitch. So you've got about £60 million worth of talent that is actually on the pitch.
Willie Gnonto's out the squad.
Gnonto is out, and that's sounding, for me, more and more suspiciously like there's been some falling out. I'm not quite sure what's going on there, but it sounds very much like the Ramazani situation last year. I don't know what's going on. But getting back to what you were saying, that they both had a big part to play in this, and they're both at fault for the current situation that we're in, the 49ers and Daniel Farke. I'm not really sure what more they could have done. We all know that we needed forwards, Connor, and we've got two lads in on frees. But to me, it's up to the manager to make a situation good. And if we had a better manager, I think he'd be able to do more with this crop of players.
Yeah, it feels like we've spoken about that before, haven't we? I mean, we were saying earlier on the channel, and I think you brought it up yesterday, and we were just having a chat about it. You said, as a fan base, it's strange how people are kind of, they love what Daniel Farke's done and all this sort of stuff. I would have the context, he's done well, but he did have the most lucrative squad in the championship. We had an unbelievable side. I guess there was the stubbornness with Melier, wasn't there, which was costing us points for a long time. He publicly came out and backed him, but we did get up at the end. Of course we did. But it was one of those things where you kind of still saw the stubbornness with Daniel Farke last season. We were aware of it. Ramazani was probably another situation, but then you had Solomon there, obviously, who was performing, but there was stages of which Solomon could have been taken out. I think there was a run of around about 9 or 10 games of which Solomon wasn't taken out, and I don't think he contributed to a goal, where he got 1 goal contribution in 10. So I think what we know with Farke is in general, and you can hear it from the Norwich lads, I've got very good contacts down there, and they're all the exact same thing. It's even when we went up to the Premier League, the Norwich fans will say they didn't spend a lot, but it was a very similar brand of football. It was heavy possession based. It was a 4-2-3-1, and he didn't adapt. Substitutions were late. So that he's not learning. It's the same thing consistently. So I think the stress for me has been, there was a way of which I saw Leeds playing this year, and I actually have seen success with it this season against big and good. How many teams are going to go and push Bournemouth to the brink like we did? I know Villa did it at the weekend, but a lot of teams aren't going to do that.
Yeah, I agree.
And you look at Everton and how we really battled with them. And we were just talking about Sunderland not long ago, and now they're battling, and they've got that quality, of course, but they're battling as well. It just feels at this moment in time, this style of football is quite simply just going to relegate Leeds. We're not good enough to play that style of football.
And that's a frustrating thing, because we have seen, you just said there, Conor, in the games against Everton, Newcastle, Bournemouth, where there's a style of play that we adopted. And that's interesting, actually, because all of those games were at Ellen Road as well, weren't they? So we're emboldened by the fans there, I would imagine, because the fans are extremely passionate, as we know, at home. They are away, of course, but at home it's a very different kettle of fish. So, it seems that we're able at home to play almost, I wouldn't say a swashbuckling style, but a style where we are very aggressive, we're on the front foot, and we're very athletic, and we're exactly the sort of team that we thought we needed to be to succeed in this league, and we're showing that at home. And yet when you look at the record away, it's abysmal, and it seems that we're not that kind of team. We just don't see, we seem to be the team that is going to be bullied when we're playing away from home, whereas at home it's the other way around. We're the bullying team, and we're the ones that are laying down the gauntlet to the opposition. I don't know what's going on there. I don't know why we're playing differently away from home. We seem to be playing away differently. We seem weak, watching us, and it just seems to be like like you said, a very slow build-up. We played this way last year in a way with that lateral style of play where things are just being passed across the pitch, and you can't do that.
You can do it in the Championship. You can do it in the Championship with all those quality, all that quality.
You can't do it with this lot, and we know that. And here again, what worries me as well, Conor, is already at this stage of the season, we probably knew that we'd have to do this, but it's looking increasingly like that we have to start picking up points against top teams to survive. Yeah. When you look at the defeats we've had, how many defeats have we had? I mean, you can
we need to get that Burnley loss back, don't we?
Well, we've lost to 3 teams in the league already this season who are on 11 points and less. That's quite a stark fact, is that, when you think about it.
Yeah, it is.
So there's 3 teams effectively below us who have already beaten us this season, and quite comfortably as well. The fact that we're shipping goals, quite often, I know goal difference, you said to me the other day, is not really that important in this league, but quite often it's a pointer as to where teams are heading. And you look at the goal difference at the moment of the 3 bottom teams plus us, they're all in double digits. Now that's worrying, as well as the points total. It's just suggesting that we are bottom 3, we are bottom 4, and that's not going to change. We can't score a goal either. We're shipping goals left, right, and centre.
And you've got to be hard to beat, haven't you? And I think that's the thing. It felt like at the very beginning of the season we were up on set pieces. It felt like at the very beginning of the season, we could defend and we're going to be dangerous from them as well. You've seen Rodon looking very, very dangerous, and good set pieces into the box as well. Sean Longstaff's fallen off a cliff when it comes to deliveries into the box. It feels like, defensively and offensively. I mean, everybody's scoring the same goal against us. Byline cutback. Yeah. Everybody's scoring the same goal against us. And why is that still happening? It should not still be happening. I go on about this all the time. If you're playing a direct style of play, you have to have second runners. We don't have runners. We don't have high-end runners off Dominic Calvert-Lewin or Lucas Mecha. They're isolated. He always talks about a centre forward. He was waxing lyrical. He was doing a monologue about Joel Peru last season. He said, Joel Peru, I'm the best manager for him, yada, yada, yada. You've got 2 strikers there, and they're averaging, especially when it comes to Dominic Calvert-Lewin. Dominic Calvert-Lewin's averaging 1.1 touches per game in the opposition box. You can't lay the blame at Dominic Calvert-Lewin. You know what type of player he is. You've got to mould the team effectively around your number 9. And you brought, I think there's a lot of stuff going around of, but we brought in 2 free transfers. You did bring in 2 free transfers, but you've also brought in 2 free transfers of which fit a style of play. And the whole thing with these strikers was, they're not going to be fit. They're not going to be fit. They're not going to be fit. Well, realistically throughout the season, both of them relatively have been pretty fit. You know, they've been up for selection. So we've got two strikers there who fit a certain mould of play. We're not playing that mould. I mean, one thing that was starting, I don't know if you saw it against Forest, but at one point, Ampadu went down, and then instead of, I was thinking, we were just talking about in the living room there, we're talking about Anton Stack coming in that number 6.
Yeah.
We look over to the bench and Groves getting stripped off.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, what on earth is he thinking?
This is what's frustrating about him, isn't it? And he's just reverted to form, isn't he? You know, with his substitutions as well, you know, the timing of his substitutions and what he's doing. And I just don't think he's got it within his...
He's not Premier League, is he?
No, he's just
not
to me,
Premier
he just
League.
doesn't have the ability to be able to look at a game and change it. I mean, we saw it with Forest, didn't we? Where Dyche had a look at the game, and all of a sudden there's multiple substitutions coming on, and he wanted to change the game.
Yeah.
And then almost as a reaction, we sent on a couple of subs.
3.
You know, 3 subs, I think it was.
It was 3 on 3, wasn't it?
Yeah.
He had 3. We had 3 on.
Almost immediately afterwards.
Yeah.
But again, you know, you look at the quality of the people coming on, and you're thinking, are they Premier League players? But we are where we are with things. You know, another interesting fact as well with that game, Con, I was watching bits of it. I didn't get a chance to see it all. Obviously, making a big play of Ampadu's throw now. And this just sort of summed it up for me. You know, if we wound up this massive throw, threw it into the box. It was in the 6-yard area, and we had 3 forward players who didn't even try to get on the end of it. You know, and there I am watching the Sunderland game a bit later on, and a very similar situation happened where the ball was played in the 93rd, 94th minute. One of their players gets his foot on it and equalises. You know, I don't know what's going on, but there just seems to be a lack of effort, a lack of drive when we're playing away from home. We've seen it before. We've seen it in the past with Farke. You know, I remember a few years back going to Everton and we were buckling, weren't we, under pressure. We just don't seem to be able to offer the same away from home that we are offering at home, and I don't know what it is. The passion's lacking. There's no drive there. I just feel as though Farke, for me, is a one-trick pony, and it's absolutely unable to change the game midstream when it's going against us.
And do you think, obviously, I was expecting, I wasn't probably expecting it, but the noise in and around is that the 49ers are going to back him. They're going to give him till there's murmurs that it's going to be either 5 games or till the 7th of December. There's different things going around now. We're not saying that's true or anything like that, but the fact that they've not backed him right, the fact that they've not sacked him right now, probably does mean that they're going to give him you'd expect them to give him another 3 to 5 games. I can't imagine they're going to stick with him till the end of the season, come what may. It doesn't make a lot of sense. He's odds on in the Premier League now to be the next manager sacked as well. I mean, I guess the point, and this is what we've been saying, you know, that smoking gun, you know, who's it been pointed at now? And as much as we know Farke is inept, I think in certain areas, and I don't think he's good enough for the Premier League. And I think Sunday almost consolidated that for me. I'm kind of looking at them now and thinking, you're absolutely rudderless. Your leadership, how many, are you ruthless enough? You look weak. And we've got examples of that this season. You were just mentioning you thought he should have been sacked in the summer. Well, they sent something to their mouthpiece at the Daily Mail and Mike Keegan to put something out to the fans. Fans revolted against it. And then all of a sudden, you're getting them pulling the rug, and then you're getting Parag come out and back him. And then, you know, we do have to look at him being VP as well, vice president at Rangers, and Russell Martin being the worst manager Rangers have ever appointed. Rangers, them taking time after time. Russell Martin getting chased out the ground. They eventually sack him. I've never seen anything like that when it comes to manager. It sounded like there was 100% of the fan base just all turned on him. They couldn't stand him. They'd score a goal, Rangers, and they'd still be slagging him off in the crowd. So with chants and stuff. So the point being is that Parag in particular looks weak, and this is what's worrying me right now. And I guess it aids your point of the whole apathy and sleepwalking to relegation, because we can all see what's going to happen. We all know in the next 3 or 4 games. I mean, we could beat Villa. I think let's say we beat Villa. I think that maybe papers over the cracks a little bit, because I think then you're still going to see Leeds struggle the next 4 or 5 games.
Yeah.
But it's kind of at that point now where it feels like that smoking gun again has been pointed at the 49. What are you doing? What's your plan here? What is the plan? What's that? What, you know? I said this the other day on a video, posed a question: what's our identity? Who are we as a football team anymore? What is it we do? Are we a counter-pressing side? Are we a possession-laden side? What is it that we do? Because I don't know anymore.
Yeah, there doesn't seem to be a clear way of
top down though, not
yeah,
Farke.
yeah, I know. It's so disappointing. You know, we've had all these problems with owners over the years, and you know, I really expected the 49ers to really stamp their authority on the club. You know, and that would have been perfect for me. They buckled under pressure. At the end of the last season when we got promoted, there was a lot of fan reaction saying you can't get rid of Daniel Farke, he's just got us promoted, and then the media started to jump on the bandwagon, and they really needed to step forward as leaders at that point and think with the business heads on, you know, as well as the football heads, but very much with the business heads on, that we need the best possible person we can to drive us forwards in the Premier League. And it seemed, didn't it? The feeling was there at the time that he was going to get the push. And I think it was the clamour from the majority of the fans at the time that says you can't do that. And they buckled under that pressure.
But just to interrupt as well, Dan, just to interrupt as well and keep on with that point. It's the exact same. They were in the boardroom. They were in the boardroom for Radrizzani. The learnings they should have taken from Radrizzani. Radrizzani used to react to the fan base all the time. We know that all too well. He used to react to the fan base all the time. You know, the whole point is when they took over, they'd learn from the mistakes of the past. That was the whole quote. We'd learn from the mistakes of the past. You can't then buckle to fan pressure. Like you just said, you could have had 90% of the Leeds fans upset about it. Do you think Marinakis cares? No. They're not bothered. Do you think, you know...
Well, he's actually a perfect example. Yeah. I mean, that guy there knows his football club. He knows what he wants. And he's prepared to put his balls on the line. But even with Brentford, we don't get that. And
Brentford, when they hired a set piece coach and Keith Andrews, a Sky Sports pundit as the manager, and you've got the whole football world, the media saying, "What are they doing? What are they doing?" They do it.
Yeah, they do it. And at this stage, it looks like they've got it right.
Yeah, 100%.
You know, much to my disappointment because I can't stand him. Yeah. But I mean, it looks like they've got it right. And again, here we are. There's so many things to talk about, but here we are at this juncture. And you really feel that the 49ers don't have a proper succession plan in place. I get that feeling. You know, we know that they've got Daniel Farke there, but it's highly likely that probably over the next 3 or 4 games, when Leeds come away from this
pointless
over the next 3 or 4 games, that they're going to realise they have to change things, they have to change it up, and they're going to give him the bullet.
It's just bizarre.
But is there going to be somebody else in place to take over? You know, clubs like Brentford and Brighton, they lose managers. And there's a proper succession plan in place. They know the names of the people.
I bet there is a Sunderland as well.
Yeah,
I bet there is a Sunderland right now.
Because there's no doubt that clubs will be looking at their manager now. You can see that he's had an absolutely fantastic start. And they'll be looking at him, not just in this country, but abroad. And he's highly likely to be poached at some point. And they will have a succession plan 100%. In place. And there's a kid running Sunderland, Connor.
Yeah, about 35, isn't it?
Yeah, probably younger than you.
Yeah.
He was given the club as a present by his dad.
Yeah.
You know, so this is where they really need to start stepping up, you know, and they need to be thinking about Leeds. And this, for me, is a perfect time. You had a conversation with Brownie last week, and I watched it. And I agree with an awful lot of what Dave says. I really do. But I didn't agree with what he said to you when he was talking about the timing of getting rid of Daniel Farke. It didn't make sense from his point of view to do it now. Well, for me, it does.
Of course it does.
It makes perfect sense. You do it now. Doesn't matter whether we can work with the players or not. You bring a coach in at this stage, and let's be honest, we're already 5-6 days into the international window now, so we've already lost that. It gives a chance for a new coach to come in, to establish himself, to get it set up right, and also understand that we're going through a patch where it's highly unlikely we're going to pick up significant points. That doesn't matter because a new person comes in now. They're getting used to
the culture at
the club and how they can put their mark on it. And also, you know, we are coming into a period now where a new coach may even be able to bring in some new players in January. You know, are we really going to want Farke's players in January if he is given the chance to go out there and
spend money? What polls he got? That's another thing. It's
I mean, that's a fair point.
Especially when we're 19th, if we're in 19th and you're looking at clubs, and with the greatest of respect to Farke, he's not got the pull lads. And we saw that in the whatever we can say. Look at when we lost to DK, we lost to Diarra to Sunderland.
I know. And that's down to the 49ers. We were just dragging our feet at that moment in time. Look at the impact they've had up at Sunderland. But to be honest with you, I think really, who would come to Leeds, Connor? you're also presented with that scenario. At the end of last season, there'd have been a clutch of coaches that would have been happy to come to Leeds because you've got the season ahead. You've got a newly promoted Premier League team. You've got the whole season ahead of you, and there would have been numerous interested parties in taking over the helm at Leeds during the summer. Now look at it. Here we are. We're hurtling towards December. We're obviously in a very tricky situation. We're staring relegation in the face. How many quality coaches are going to want to move from jobs if they are currently in jobs, with progressive clubs elsewhere throughout Europe, for example? Are they really going to want to come to Leeds and get involved in a dogfight? It's highly unlikely. So then you're going to be looking at people that are available and out of work out there. And that's just a small clutch of players, coaches, the kind of quality that you're looking for.
But it does look 10 times better now.
It does.
It looks 10 times better now, and that's what you can sell to a new manager. It looks 10 times better. We were speaking, I was giving you a couple of names, I've done a couple of names on the channel. Quite right, a lot of them, we're just talking about the Premier League and the load of the Premier League is massive. The wage that they would get is probably going to be the most significant, even if they've worked in Serie A, even if they've worked in La Liga, the packet that Leeds will be able to offer will be significant. There should be enough connections in there right now to be able to establish a list of targets. They've got to have a list of targets now. If they're saying about Daniel Farke that in 4 or 5 games they're giving him it, we all know what's going to happen in 4 or 5 games. It's not stupid. And this comes to the apathy, doesn't it? It comes all the way back to the sleepwalking, the apathy comment. It's the fact that we all know what's going to happen here. And if it doesn't happen, brilliant. But even if we beat Aston Villa, look, we know then what's going to happen. We're going to be playing City, Chelsea, Liverpool, Palace coming up. We all know what's going to happen. So then he's going to. Every sane person can read this. He's then going to get the boot if they then are in 19th position and we've got absolutely torched by 4 or 5. And we've not made it difficult because, by the way, we can have a look at Burnley. Burnley have made it difficult aside from City. And maybe Spurs in there. They've played Man United, they've played Liverpool, they've played teams like that, and they've made it a little bit more difficult. If we're getting torched by these top 40, by these teams that we're coming up against, the manager's going to look at that. He's going to look at the fact that he's not been able to. You were quite right when it comes to preparation for January, because as we knew in the summer, apparently they were preparing for summer in April. So there's got to be a working up period to that January period, which is massive for Leeds right now. It's huge. So they've got to go out and get a manager in November. November 10th is when this break started, to then have that, 6-7 weeks, which isn't long, by the way, to establish your January plans, your style of play, a new identity, ethos, philosophy, whatever. The problem is right now is if like you say, if I'm a coach and they approach me, I'm going to rant here, but they've done it before. Do you remember when with Marsh, they stuck with Marsh? We beat Bournemouth, beat Liverpool, stuck with him. They bottled sacking him, which they've done before. Then we got into January. We backed Marsh in January. We then get into February and sack him. And the thing is, the 49ers are in the background with this, so they've seen it happen. This is the annoying thing about it all. It's that where is the... So if we talk about Daniel Farke adapting, learning, top down, it's piss poor.
Yeah, the leadership is abysmal at the moment. Like I said, they should have been strong enough in the summer to bin him. It's as simple as that. Bin him, get rid of him. He's clearly not a Premier League manager. Let's get somebody else in. But we are where we are. I thought the interesting stat that you came out with the other day when I was when you were chatting to Brownie was this stat about 70. Is it if clubs get rid of coaches at this stage during the season?
70%.
Isn't it like a 70% uplift?
And they reckon there's from this point onwards as well, there's statistically 7 points that you would get on top of what you'd normally do.
Yeah, which is huge. Let's be honest. If we'd have had those 7 points in the bag, and again, Farke will be arguing this. We should have had 7 points. Well, in the cold light day, we don't have them.
But 8 of the bottom 10.
If we had of them, would have been getting close to pretty much where Sunderland's total is right now.
And we played 8 of the
been
bottom
in a
10.
lot healthier position in terms of our chances of staying in the league.
Yeah.
So I'm amazed. You know this. You do your homework. You're aware of it. The fans are aware of it. Why is the ownership not aware of it?
Who are a data model? They say they work on data.
They say they are. And they're going to have. But it's a business. They're going to have targets to achieve. And this is Marinakis, isn't it? At Forest, he's a salesman. That guy. He's a businessman. He's a salesman. He'll know that by a certain stage during the season, he's not achieving it right now, but he's made the moves to try and change it. So let's take our hats off to him for that. He knows that if his club is not at a certain level or a certain points total by a certain time during the season, he's not on course for staying in this league. He's not going to achieve what he set out to achieve. Why are our owners not thinking like that? Why are they not thinking like salespeople that have got targets to achieve? Why are they not doing that? It's mismanagement on a grand scale. It's frustrating, but we need this level of emotion that you and I are showing now. We need this throughout the entire fan base, and there needs to be a clamour from everybody out there who are Leeds fans to change the situation, because we're heading towards doom.
And how do you do that? Got to be
Well, Rangers fans did it, didn't they?
Well,
They showed their discontent when Rangers were scoring goals.
Well, so
And they hounded that guy out of the club, and they reacted to that situation. So there needs to be a clamour from the fan base to get rid of this guy. Because I tell you what, we are heading for doom. And, it's going to be, we know how difficult it is in the Championship to get back out of it, to get to the Premier League. And do we really want to be a club like that, where we're going up, we're going down, we're going up, we're going down? We don't want that.
And obviously you look at now Ipswich, Southampton, and you look at,
struggling,
and they're all, you've got Coventry and Borough, they're comprising the top two, you've got Millwall. So the league, if we were to go down again, the likelihood is you're probably going to get, let's say if Ipswich don't come up, I do think Ipswich will go up, but let's say if they don't, you might have Southampton, Ipswich and Leicester, who then improve that season, and you know what then happens. So we go down, and the division's tougher anyway. So you've got the three that come down, and then you've got the three that haven't gone up, but they've still got parachute payments. They're a strong side. They needed a year to adapt, like we did, and then you come back up and you're stronger the next season. And still you've got the likes of Sheffield United under Wilder. If they stay up, you've still got good teams down there.
You've got ambitious clubs that are new into that league, like Wrexham, for example, who are prepared to spend a bit. I know they're not doing fantastically, but they're about mid-table.
Birmingham might be in there.
Birmingham as well. They've got a bit of money to spend. So it could be. We don't really want to be thinking about the Championship right now when we're in the Premier League. But
that's how I feel.
Unfortunately,
that's how I feel.
It's a dark cloud on the horizon that we can see heading towards us. And we need people to start to reignite that passion. It's been an odd start to the season, a really strange start with all of these international windows. And I feel as though we've not really got going as a club. The whole league doesn't seem as though it has, but we need passion now. We need passion from the base. Things need to change. People need to let the owners that things need to change, because if it doesn't, we've got massive, massive problems. Does this also impact on the plans for stadium development as well? It shouldn't do. To me, that should be money that's been shoehorned, and we still develop Ellen Road even if we're in the Championship, because we need those revenue streams. But it may well do. It may well be pie in the sky like it has been forever and a day in terms of developing the stadium. But that could be something else that's impacted by them. They've got to be aware of this. They are aware of this. They can't be thinking that Daniel Farke is going to be the man that's going to give us what we're looking for, because he clearly isn't.
It does make you think as well. There's rumours going out there that they've got like a 3-year plan. We were just speaking about it before that. I think Moscow Light, from formerly of the Square Ball, had mentioned it on he did an article piece, and he was saying that Leeds have got effectively a 3-year plan to finish 16th, 15th and 15th. I mean, you cannot plan for that. You've got to plan above that, and then you might fall. You might fall a little bit, but you've got to plan ahead of that.
Aiming every single season for a position between 8 and 10, surely. If you fall short, you end up in 15th spot. And you're not planning for 15th or 16th. You're not doing that. No. You'd be happy with that, but you're not planning for
exactly. That's the difference. You don't plan for that. You'd be happy with it. You understand, but you've got to do the absolute best and the utmost to finish as high as you can. In developing all positions. But I think there's a serious issue here, maybe in the background as well. With I wonder what Farke's running. I wonder with the turnover that we see with Steinson, with Jordan Miles, with all of them leaving, Hammond leaving in the summer as well. The whole restructuring of the club when it comes to Underwood being promoted from the academy into head of recruitment. When you're looking at I think he's called Eisenberg, is it? I think that's his name. Morris Eisenberg, I think his name is. Taking a more established role at Ellen Road as well. It feels like the constant is Daniel Farke from the last two and a bit years. So if he's the constant, then the question is, if he's to leave, are the 49ers then worried? And then it comes, because he's the football guy in the background, and then you start to, as Parag's, has he moved away from Leeds a little bit with the Rangers stuff? I know the 49ers fans are apparently a little bit upset with the fact that there's not that much focus there as well. Is he spreading himself a little bit too thin, and then Farke's the guy on the ground at Ellen Road? That, for me, makes logistical sense. Because why else? This is me giving them as much, not props as such, but as many excuses as you can. Maybe they're just thinking, it's not like they're not football guys at Leeds United right now. We know Underwood's been there for years. But in terms of the established management framework at Leeds United, maybe they think we need Daniel Farke there. If we don't have Daniel Farke there, then what do we do? Yeah, then what? Yeah, you know, and that's my big worry, because wasn't that the whole thing with Bielsa? It was the fact that Bielsa, when he left, he was the head honcho. When Bielsa left, it all fell apart, and it did. That's my major worry now. It's the fact that have they actually got this structured framework.
I think the thing with Bielsa is slightly different.
I know it's different.
If you remember, I mean, effectively, he wanted a pot of money from Leeds to be able to appoint all of his staff, didn't he? And he was effectively the employer of his staff. So when Bielsa fell, everybody else went with him because that was all part of his contract. Here, if Farke leaves, it's everything else is still going to be in place. And of course, a new person comes in, that will change. We all know about that.
There's a level of control, though, Dad. There must be a level of control with him in the background. There has to be. Because I'm just saying, because otherwise, they must be a bit, as owners, they must be a bit dim. They must be a bit dim. I don't understand.
Yeah, I mean, I really don't understand it. I mean, they don't seem to have the finger on the pulse at the moment. It's very frustrating. I'm frustrated with Farke. I'm also frustrated with the owners. We've had other clubs around us who are below us at the moment who have gone out there and they've changed. They've been proactive. They've been in this league for many seasons now.
Would you take Dash?
Without a doubt, Connor. And a lot of fans may be going, Sean Dash, but let's be honest, he's kept clubs in this league and he knows how to do it, and he's going to do it with Forest. We know it. I would have definitely taken Dash. Him as well. Absolutely. And I don't care about the style of football. Let's be honest, Connor. It's not exactly great to watch either at the moment, is it? It's not good.
Rubbish.
It's not good at all. So I definitely would have taken those. I'd have been happy with watching turgid stuff.
Yeah.
If it keeps us in the Premier League this year, and we get turgid stuff next year, and it keeps us in the Premier League, because then we're starting to build up that head of steam.
Yeah.
We're starting to build up the experience of playing in the Premier League and staying in the Premier League. And then at that time, you're also developing your stadium. Well, let's get 3 or 4 seasons into it, and then we start to think about, adaptive football and attractive football and the sort of things fans turn up every week.
Some fans, we know this. Some fans, when we're talking about maybe Daniel Farke at some point being switched, when David Moyes was out of the way, they were laughing at David Moyes. David Moyes, what can he do with Leeds? I get it's subjective, but I don't understand where this credit in the bank comes. I understand he's got us promoted and all that sort of stuff, but for me, it's you've done a job. Thank you. Well done. We've given you a little bit of a phase right now. It's not worked. Yeah. Thanks for your service. You can go away and tell your other clubs and in the media that you got 11 points in 11. You're on to a good thing. Absolutely fine.
He can leave the club right now, Connor, with his head held high. He knows he's going to get a job. Probably not in the Premier League, we know that, but probably anywhere else in Europe. If he wants to get a job, certainly in the Championship. But anyway, I would say most, like Como, for example. You're talking about Fabregas at Como. Wouldn't they be? Who knows? He'd certainly get. I would have thought he'd have had a bite in some of the top leagues throughout Europe.
He might have a Bundesliga lower level job again, like he had before.
Well, he did before, didn't he? It was a low level Bundesliga club, and that's what I'm saying. Como is in Serie A, isn't it?
Yeah.
Who's heard of Como? Heard of Lake Como, but not the football team. But therein lies another problem, and something we've not really considered. You came up with 5 names the other day in terms of possible replacements. But Motta, for example, I mean, I barely heard of him. Would you take a punt on somebody like him in the Premier League at this stage during the season? You're really looking for people who have got Premier League experience.
No,
I would think.
You're not.
I would think so. But then there again
lies a problem.
There again lies a problem.
And I know what you mean. Yeah.
The pool of managers that can come in and take over a club like this at this stage during the season is extremely limited. There are not many options, and you are taking a punt on bringing somebody else in that's not had Premier League experience and asking them to keep this club in the division. So they've got a problem there. But again, that's all down to their style. They should have a proper succession plan in place. If something happens to Daniel Farke and there's somebody else who can take this club on without any kind of problem and move us forwards, just like Brentford are able to do and Brighton are able to do when they lose their managers.
Won't surprise you though, would it? In a strange sort of way, if we got something against Villa, it wouldn't surprise you. I think getting a point against Villa after all this is quite strange that we're saying this, or I'm saying this. But it wouldn't surprise me if you got put with it. It's weird. It's weird like that at home. We've been relatively good, but then the problems are going to resurface. We all know it is papering over the cracks, and I have to say, getting to 11 points in 9 games, whatever it was, those statistics, and we'd said at the start of the season, it just gives you that understanding that Leeds have had a proper start to the season. We're probably above the bottom 3, and that's what that is. It's a measure in your first 10 to 11 games. That's what the BBC used, Sky used it as well. The problem is you can't go on that points per game thing because it's not realistic. You're not going to get a point per game. And not only that, but the point per game thing isn't really, I don't think, sort of representative of, it gets you to a certain stage, but you've then obviously, like you said, you've got dark storms coming your way until probably around about the 10th of January. Yeah. So that goes out the window. And what would worry me about it all is the murmurs you hear in the background when you read Zinny Boswell of Sky Sports, who said they're happy with the point per game thing. That's a massive worry. If that is what they're banking on.
If they're happy with the point per game thing, Connor, that's realistically going to change where they're going to be unhappy in the next 2 to 3 games because we won't have a point per game. So it'll actually be less.
It's terrible long-term thinking.
Yeah, but it is. It's really, you're banking your whole future, aren't you? It's getting back to like Ridsdale in the old days, living the dream. You're just remortgaging your bank. You can't look at it that way. It's got to be properly thought out. But it is a worry when I'm thinking about sacking Farke and who else we do get in to save the club. We will have that manager bounce hopefully where we can pick up 6 or 7 points with a new manager. But it is a worry as to who is out there that can lead this club forwards and keep us in this division. But you can't
stay in the job because of that.
No,
you can't stay in the job because
of that. I know, but they should also be on it. They should also know who they can bring in that will give us that opportunity to stay in the league. But getting back to what you were saying, you wouldn't be surprised if we pick up a point against Villa.
No.
I don't see us picking up 3.
No.
I see us maybe picking up a point. And me and you spoke about these next 12 games. I think the next realistic win we've got is at home to Fulham in mid-January. Between now and then we've got 12 games to play, and the only fixtures I can see as possibly picking up points is maybe a point against Villa at home. If it really works well for us, a point against Chelsea, you just never know, that could work.
Point against Palace,
and then maybe a point against Palace. They're the ones a point.
They're
all home games. Yeah.
Well, away from home.
I don't see it, Connor. Literally, because I'm not quite sure. I think they've lost at home as well already this season. We have as well. There's also these late goals as well, Connor. What's going on there? Where all these late goals we're conceding, but that's just something else. But I'm really worried about this next tranche of 12 games. When I'm thinking that, really, can I see us picking up more than 3 points over a 12-game period? And you've got 36 points to be had there. I mean, that is really, really worrying when you're thinking you're probably going to pick up less than 10% of the points.
And a January to manage and a potential managerial change that's going to happen as well. Yeah. So we all know, don't we? Like it's pretty much confirmed, isn't it, that he's going to be gone in the next 4 to 7 games. That's how it feels right now.
You feel like that's the case?
I think he's gone in 4 to 7 games because I don't think the required points get picked up. So, and we'll put this now, I'll bookmark it. I think in 4 to 7 games he's going to be gone. Yeah. We're going to get into January, probably like 5th or 6th with a managerial change after the Man United game.
Who's going to come in then? Get rid of him. Who's going to come in?
Well, I know who I'd bring in, but I don't think that will do. I don't know. It screams to me right now that there's no plan. I agree with what you're saying. I don't think maybe they'll have a little bit of a loose structure. Now, what I'm vouching for when it comes to someone like Thiago Motta or someone like Cesc Fabregas is the beauty of them is even if they came in now, there is more of the tactical roles. There's more work within spacing, triggers, pressing had increased, a tactical framework, real specificity when it comes to individuals. Dominic Calvert-Lewin, Motta's done it really well at Bologna, and he did it to an extent at Juve. Striker, remain in the box, stay in the box at all opportunities, will work around you. I think these managers, there's no way anybody is telling me that as like a tactical manager and a strategy-laden manager, Daniel Farke is above Cesc Fabregas, Thiago Motta, Knutson, who was speaking out of Bodo Glimt. Now, then the question is, because the 49ers, we've got Red Bull behind us, I thought that would be some major pull. I thought we'd have a major pull with that. I thought we'd have had connections. Yeah. I thought we'd have had the money to be able to do these sorts of things. If there's not a connection with Red Bull, and we know it's not, I think it's more commercial, isn't it? I think that's what we're led to believe. But we're also led to believe as well that they had enterprise connections as well, which they'd be able to help Leeds with. That's what they were brought in for as well, as the money, of course. Yeah. Now, I was thinking to myself, brilliant. Okay, if we ever get to that stage where we need a new manager, we've got those connections. Throw the book in when it comes to money. We're 16th in the division right now. You're out the relegation zone. You've got January to play with. And by the way, we've got 6 weeks until that point. And is there going to be a betterment of individuals than what they are under Daniel Farke, who, well, I mean, what specificity do we have now? What roles, what ideas? There's nothing there. So there's got to be an improvement. There has to be an improvement.
And sometimes you feel, Conor, that a manager's probably been in a role too long. And I know 2.5 seasons is not. It almost,
in football, it's
a long time in football, isn't it? Particularly at the top level, which you could say Leeds have been, certainly been the top level in the Championship, and now we're in the Premier League. And it's almost like his time's done. His time's up. He's served his time. He's served his purpose. He's got us to where we need to be. At this stage, we are at the 11th game on 11 points.
The 11th hour.
Where we need to be, and we are at the 11th hour. Yeah, we are where we need to be in terms of Daniel Farke's involvement with Leeds United. That now has come to an end. They need to terminate his employment. They need to move on. I'm just hoping that they've got a replacement clearly in mind, somebody who can come in and can turn this ship around, because it's a big ask.
And by the way, he'd beaten Brentford away. Norwich sacked him.
Yeah.
After he'd beaten Brentford away. Now that's Delia Smith and Michael Wynne-Jones. Do we have that ruthlessness?
This is where the owners quite clearly now need to step up to the mark, and the fans need to be demanding that of them. They need to be stepping up to the mark, and there needs to be pressure from all ends up. And I know the club won't react to that in favourable ways, but it needs to be coming from all outlets, including this one, that it's time for a change, and they need to be fully aware of that.
And I think that's
time's running out.
Well, I think that's why as well, what I'm doing a lot of what I'm doing now, and I think it's important as well, because it's not forcing an agenda, but I think we all know there needs to be a change, and hopefully if there's more notoriety around it, more articles, more YouTube videos, I don't know, it can point them in that direction, and they'll see a lot more of it. We know they'll be heavy on social media. So it's not like we have an influence, but they're clearly influenced by the fans' voice, aren't they? They're clearly what they are.
Are they? They weren't last. Well, I suppose they are. They are, because they reacted to the fans' voice at the end of the last season. When the wise choice would have been to bin him and to move on and get a proper coach in for the Premier League. But yeah, they buckled under fans' pressure. Well, now, fans, it's time to turn the other way. Yeah. We need to start putting pressure on for a change.
Yeah, I think so. Well, guys, we'll leave it there. It's been about 50 minutes on your Saturday morning. I don't even know if it's Saturday morning anymore. We've uploaded this.
It's still raining.
It's still raining here. Let us know what you think in the comment section below. It is probably the most frustrated show we'll do. Normally, we have a little bit of a laugh when it comes to Leeds, but it's real, it's honest, it's true. It's not fun at the minute being a Leeds United fan. I think we're all quite, in that mode.
Let's get rid of this apathy. We need to get rid of this apathy. We don't want to be sleepwalking to relegation. We want people to be
got to act like a big club again. Got to act like a big club again. I'm sick of us acting like this small, pathetic club.
Sick of it.
You look at every other club, and it feels like there's a ruthlessness with Leeds. We just seem piss weak, and I'm sick of it.
It's almost like we're destined to go down, and there just seems to be that feeling. We need to remember who we are as a football club.
Massive football club. Huge European pedigree. Not long ago, Division 1 winners, Champions League. Yes, it's 20 years ago, but still, it's just like you've quite rightly said.
It's slipping out of our grasp, and we can feel it, and we don't want to accept that. And there's no reason why we should accept
that. Got to be calm at Leeds for once, haven't they? Just a bit of calm. A bit of calm instead of the constant churn, the constant chaos, the constant moving of parts. Anyway, guys, we'll leave it there. Let us know what you think in the comment section below. We'll see you in a bit. Cheers.
Yeah.